Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Hey, Trekkers, welcome back to the Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. This is episode 176. Ooh, 76. I was born in 1976, the bicentennial. A lot more exciting than the 250 we're having right now, but we don't need to get into that. But apparently the bicentennial was a really great deal. But anyway, I am Charlie Carden. I am your Trek Lord of West Michigan, your humble servant, joined as always by my number one, Peter Stein. Peter, good evening.
Good evening.
And an extra special, super duper, I was going to say the man size. I would say super size, but I don't know. A guy who's a big deal, at least in my regard, Chris Garris of the Transporter Room podcast. Good evening, my friend. How are you? Welcome.
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me tonight.
Absolutely. Well, we got a great show for you today. We're going to jump into our latest segment of Random Episode, which has landed us square in the middle of Faith of the Heart, a.k.a. my shining moment from Star Trek The Cruise earlier this year, singing with those three guys, this wonderful theme song. But it's an episode of Star Trek Enterprise. And then we are going to continue our segment of top fives and bottom fives of series Peter and I are going to tackle, talking about Star Trek Picard. But first and foremost, I do want to extend a very warm welcome to people listening to our show, maybe for the first time, maybe for the second time, over off of the Trek Geeks Network, as I talked about in our last episode. We joined that network. We're super psyched to be a part of that beautiful family of Star Trek podcasts. So welcome. And I hope you're enjoying. Our entire back catalog obviously can be found at our website, and then you'll see new episodes continue to proliferate on regular feeds for Trek Geeks. So, secondly, as always, want to give some love and respect to the delightful people on our Secret Friends Unite Patreon over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite, where you do get all of our programs early. This show, for example, generally drops on a Monday for the world. You are getting this one on Saturday because it's a holiday weekend and we're recording a little early, so I'll give you a little bit of extra spice. Exclusive programs, including the Great Bad Movies podcast that I do with my wife, and the Facts of Geek Life. Peter and I are wrapping up talking about Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica, which is my other favorite show, and an exclusive channel on our Discord just for Patreons. This is the way it works. Anybody can join for free. So we'd love to have you on board, even if it's just that. But if you choose to stick around, your first month is 50% off, and you could stay on board for as little as $2 a month. So that is over 10 years worth of entertainment for only $2 a month. So we would absolutely love to have you on board for that. So patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Peter, I'm going to put you on the hot spot because otherwise I'll be reading this every week. Why don't you talk to us about our Trek Geeks sponsor?
All right. So our sponsor is our friends over at Fansets. So Charlie and I being costumers, loving to do those uniforms. We like to use them very much. They have some pretty screen accurate stuff that you can get in both pin and magnet form. So if you're like me and like to have the pins on the heavier badges, then you can get those. And if you want magnets to take off and not leave marks, you got those too. So that's what we stick to. They look good, great on camera, great in person. So it's a family-owned business, Lou and Amity out of Colorado, and really good stuff. They release stuff, I think, once a month, new things.
They do, yeah. I see their regular stuff. And the beauty of listening to us is that you can save a little bit of money if you use Trek Geeks, all caps, no spaces. You can save 10% off your entire order. And when you spend $30 or more, which is usually 2 of the pins or badges, your shipping is free. And it's fast. I know I always get them, in about a little bit less than a week.
It's it's less than a week, a couple days.
Absolutely. All right, got the business out of the way. Let me ping it back to Chris. Chris, tell me about the Transporter Room, and tell me about how, I'll flip that. Tell me about how you got interested in Star Trek, and tell me about the Transporter Room, please.
All right. So I think I had really been in, I've been into sci-fi for, most of my life. And of course, I think for me, I actually started with Star Wars. Um,
Same.
you know, but over time, I was introduced to Star Trek. I do not remember exactly if it was a movie, but I really do believe it was one of the movies. Because the first series that I actually watched was TNG, because just like you, I was born in 1976 as well. So so we were right there at when TNG started, and so for me it was the first Trek series I actually started watching. And I enjoyed it, and then I've always enjoyed Star Trek because it has, you know as we know, Star Wars, the other franchise, is more of a fantasy, in space, whereas Trek has, so many things, items we have in our real life have come from it. I mean,
Right,
we would
exactly.
have cell phones without it, more than likely.
That was the panel that April and I did at Trek Long Island, which you were there as well. But yeah, exactly. So yeah, Star Trek innovates. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it innovated. And also it gives us, an idea of what humanity could be like if we actually ever chose to be that way.
Touche.
I hope, as was I think it was on one of Larry Nemechek's Trekland Tuesdays live chat thing, and we made a comment. I made a comment. I would be okay to break canon to not have to deal with the thing that they had to deal with to get to First Contact and everything. A little
Fingers
global.
crossed.
Yeah. We're cool, and he agreed. He's cool with that, to break canon with that one. We want to skip that part of it. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've always enjoyed it. And then somewhere, I think around 23, 20, it had to be 23, 24. The YouTube algorithm threw in front of me the old Shutterpod show that Connor and Dom started.
Yeah.
I had absolutely no clue that there were any Star Trek channels out there, hardly at all. I mean, I think I maybe seen Trek Culture, but I don't even know if I'd seen that. To be honest with you, I just did not know.
Yeah.
And saw that. Started watching it. I was like, I really like it. And it just led down a rabbit hole from there. I found them, Seventh Rule, Delta Flyers, Trek Culture. Just so many.
Swallowed up.
Yeah, it did. It really did. And yeah, so that was that. And then in 2025, I knew I was going to retire from my full-time job, and people were like, "What are you going to do?" I was like, "Well, that's just a good point," because all I'd ever done was just work. So I, was I'm a member of the Seventh Rule and a member of the Delta Flyers. So anyway, I was talking to some friends of mine that are overseas who help out with another space-based channel, and we were just talking. I was like, maybe I could do this. I don't know. And he was like, "Are you sure you really want to do this podcast, this YouTube thing?" I'm like, "Man, this can't be that bad." Yeah. Anyway, and so after going to Creation's Trek to Dallas in November of 24, I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. So bought all, had to get a new laptop, all that, had to go get all the stuff, and and just did it. Put the first episode out on January 1 of 2025, and here we are today.
Oh my goodness! Wow, a newbie.
Grown. Good deal. Very new.
I hear you. Well, we will talk a little bit more at the end of the show, and we'll get all your plugs so that people can check you out. But let's get into this show. Let's dig into this week's, this episode's segment of the random episode, which was chosen by you, Chris.
Of course.
And really not quite so random, because I said, hey, what's your favorite show? And so I kind of gave you a third of it back. But the way the random episode works, if you're tuning in for the first time, generally the chooser will have a series selected, numbered 1 through, I think it's 12. And I only Well, I tend to, yeah, it's all series. And then from there, another, we use a virtual online die. It chooses a season of that show within the parameters, and then an episode of that season with parameters as well. So this time, Chris, like I said, I kind of give him a gimme because he loves Enterprise. He rolled and chose season 3, episode 10, Similitude. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Similitude. There we go. They just keep calling him Sim in the episode. So, but yeah, that wouldn't really quite work out. But anyway, quick summary if you've never seen it. During an engine performance test, Trip Tucker is critically injured and left comatose in sickbay. Phlox suggests Tucker's only hope for survival is the creation of a mimetic symbiote. Oh, it sounds like some Spider-Man stuff. In other words, a clone. The crew and the clone have to face unforeseen emotional ramifications of his creation. This was written by Manny Cotto. We have had Manny's brother on for PanCan. That was last year. Super nice guy. Directed by the one and only LeVar Burton, also a super nice guy. I've met a couple of times. This first aired here in the U.S. In November of 2003. And those are all the basics. Let's get into it. Chris is our guest. Let's get you talking about how you feel about this episode. Kind of walk me through it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, okay. I don't even know how I didn't even feel maybe it's because I was 26 at the time and I was 26 when this episode came out. And then a few days later I was 27, but it hits a lot different now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I did not, to be honest with you, I don't know why I didn't pick up, almost 20 something years ago, the content of what was going on and the situation. But this is not the first time this has happened to me. I've had other episodes of Star Trek that I've now watched at almost 50 that have resonated in a completely different mindset. Totally.
Yeah. I think Star Trek, with its long history, is amongst one of the very few shows that can consistently deliver that. Even Leonard Nimoy made a comment on that. It was the 25th anniversary doco they did, and he said, Star Trek is great for kids because they can enjoy it as for the action adventure and stuff, and then they come back years later and maybe pick up something that you missed. And it's so true, and it continues to be true the older you get. That's what Peter, would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Because obviously when the episode opens, we're standing over a, Trip in a torpedo tube. And, of course, back then I was like, there's no way.
I wrote big red herring. Somebody's not just like dead or whatever.
Yeah.
And
I'm like,
what?
No, this can't be. I mean, I know the show was having some issues, but anyway. So obviously it starts off with that and you're like, okay, that's a little odd. And a little side note here, now that I am doing this because of the YouTube, now I texted her earlier because as I was watching, like, oh, I know the person that is standing to Scott's left up there on the catwalk when he's doing his eulogy type stuff. It's one of the background actors, Jen Anderson. She is the blonde on his. She's on the left screen,
I don't
right?
think I know that name. Interesting.
Yeah, she's been there. She's part of the Letter Decks group that Duncan Fraser has. Duncan K. Fraser has built up, and so I was like, "Oh, I know her," and because I took a picture, said, "Hey, there you are," and she's like, "Oh my god," she just laughed about it. But then, of course, obviously after the opening scene, we go to the theme song that I have no problems with. I know a lot of people do. I will love it forever because of my time with the boys singing the song on the cruise. I did.
I closed out karaoke this year. It was my $1 million moment. Yeah, I will always love that song for that reason.
Yeah, but of course, then they immediately take us to I don't know, not romantic, but very intimate.
The cozy foot rubbing TNA butt shot scene.
Yes, a very
shirtless
intimate scene.
They were leaning this show leaned so very hard. I feel like it got better after season 3. What do you think? Do you feel like season 4 was a little bit less TNA than
correct? Well,
really
and I don't remember. Oh gosh, I wish because I just heard someone talk about it, and I don't remember exactly what season it was. But there was actually a point where the decon chamber became almost non-existent.
The sexy decant chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they were definitely, I mean, if you keep Connor and his shirt off, they were happy about that. And Jolene kind of, in her,
Oh, yes.
her pajamas, her PJs. But even though the scene was, somewhat intimate, the content really wasn't bad. He was actually working while he was doing that, because he was talking about how he could compress the warp.
It was not a sexy conversation, which I appreciate.
Not at all. It was a work conversation, because they're trying to he wants to be able to go warp 4.9 and or 5.0 for a much longer time. So yeah. So honestly, all that was just, I hate to say, it's just eye candy.
Yeah,
back in the time.
That was a tough one. All right, Peter, let's ping pong it over to you. So Trip figures out a thing to do, and he's engineering. What's going on now?
So he's working on compressing the antimatter stream.
There you go.
So that's something that we've heard engineers talk about that before, so that's nothing new. But it looks like it's working, and then all of a sudden it flares up, and he does a manual shutdown, and then gets blown off the railing and
happens all the time
and falls. Those railings do so much in every show.
So the railing on the Death Star, that could be a name of the episode. I was struggling for one. So keep talking. It's
basically just a point of, I was supposed to be safe and I'm not. So yeah, Tucker gets launched over the barrier. Things happen. We find out that he saved the ship from actually getting blown up. Mm-hmm. But now they have nucleonic particles that are filling the plasma manifolds.
They do. They fly into like this pink, that pink slime stuff they make the McDonald's food out of? That's what I feel like they flew into. Because, doesn't that basically look like McDonald's French fries like 45 minutes later?
Yeah, I guess so. But whatever it is, it's flying into the ship and starting to block like the impulse engines and stuff, and attach to the hull and slow them down and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But
it's a Midwestern snowstorm.
Then we go to sick bay and find out from Phlox that Tucker is in a coma because he's suffered some neural damage from that explosion. And it's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull him out. But then he's like, in typical Phlox fashion, I have this unconventional method that is very weird and kind of gross.
I think Chris is picking up on my big issue, because Phlox can pull like a jar out of his like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde menagerie and be like, oh, by the way, I can take a blood sample and stick it into this thing. And I think that's literally, doesn't he like?
Yeah.
And like,
he even kind of half-ass says that. He goes, in my quadri of things I have over here.
Yeah, my menagerie of
menagerie of items. I just so happen to have this one thing.
Yeah. It's a very Deus Ex Machina sort of thing.
Yeah, I didn't care for that, and that was in my rating. That's where I kind of dinged it a little bit, because that was like, why isn't this? And then of course they also pad it with, the blah blah blah, whatever the aliens were. It's a very close guard secret. Not many people know about it. Well, why do you know about it?
Yeah, how did he know?
Wouldn't they be pissed off that you're out here doing this thing that they obviously don't want you to do? It was
and
like
telling other people about it.
It's like Admiral Jameson in that first season episode of TNG. Where he's like, well, the blah, blah, blahs have this thing that'll make you young, and they don't let people out, but I had to give them, shiny gold coins or whatever, and to get it, it was like, okay. Aren't they still going to be pissed off that you used it, though? So that's my rant.
They say that they're going to use it, and there's going to be no problems, and spoilers, there are problems.
And it actually reminded me of another, there was another point in Enterprise where, in a way, I felt bad for Phlox. Of course, actually, I'm jumping way ahead, but long story, like you were just saying, Peter, he goes, it's going to be fine. Nothing's going to happen to, the symbiote.
Which is only going to live for 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
Which is why it's kind of funny that they're like, because then it turns into like Enterprise's version of Tuvix, right?
Thank you.
Where it's like, the moral dilemma, should we kill him to save Trip? I'm like, he's going to die in 2 weeks of old age because he's like, so that's where, the Tuvix thing, I mean, that's the debate that will never die within the Voyager community is, well, it was wrong. He was a sentient being. You killed him he was a life, but you split him back to preserve the other two or whatever. And it's like, why they did just Tom Riker him, I don't know. But anyway, but yeah, it was like, oh, they're all, killing themselves over this, like, oh, well, I just can't this thing and that thing. And I'm like, he's gonna die anyway. So should you let him live for another couple weeks so then he can die painfully of old age? No, just give him a shot and be like, I'm taking some of your brain tissue. That's what they do.
I mean,
it's kind of a struggle.
It would have been a very short episode. It would have been over in like 5 minutes. But in this, I know you're not supposed to think like this, but still, I'm like, why didn't they just keep him sedated the entire time he was growing so that he never...
Because then he couldn't get a crush on T'Pol and give her a big kiss.
Exactly, but that's why I said you're not supposed to think about that.
I think they did say something about the fact that if he was in a coma the whole time, like if he was sedated the whole time, then the neuroplasticity would not be good enough to actually
But of course.
I'm just saying there's medical technobabble to try to justify it.
Oh my God. So I did notice that before Clone Trip, or who was later be called Sim or Similitude, they reused the baby Borg prop from season 6 or 7 of Voyager when they find all the Borg kids. That's the same. They just took the little bits off of him, but you see him in there. You see him in there because he's moving the little fetus is moving the same way. I thought that was, they never, back in those old days of Paramount, they never threw anything away. Everything went in a drawer, and they were like, here we go. Here's a fetus. But yeah, Sim grows up super fast. So you see him as a baby, then you see him where he's about maybe 7 or 8, and then he's a teenager where he's starting to get hormones and stuff, and he's hitting on places.
Hitting on T'Pol big time.
Oh, and then like in the next commercial break, he's back to being kind of Trinera, and he's eating pie, and he's having a chat with
Dominic
with Dom. Yeah,
Trip. No, Dominic's his real name.
Yeah. Reed.
Reed. I'm like, damn it. I call him by his real name.
So he does age. They're like, well, he'll age super fast. I'm like, well, if he aged that fast and it's been not yet a week, I mean, so he gets to be a miserable geriatric for the rest of the time. It's like he aged too fast, probably because they were like, well, if we stay, because they only had like 4 or 5 days, and then the pink slime would crush the ship, or it would make all the power systems fail or something.
Basically, they'd just die because the ship had no power, and that's the end of it.
So there was a lot of moving parts that didn't seem to move in the same direction in this episode.
Of note, though, is that he starts to show evidence of having Trip's memories.
Oh, absolutely. Early on, he does.
Yeah, very early. Like he's reading a book, and I've seen this before. So he's
my mom read me this book.
He gains access to Trip's memories as he hits certain milestones, which is interesting.
And they brought that up as well. Is like, would a clone have your memories? And that was a question. I think they were a little iffy about that.
In Spider-Man parlance, because I'm a big Spider-Man guy, there was the dreaded clone saga. It started in the 70s, went away, came back in the 90s, and for a lot of us, it ruined Spider-Man for a while. But Peter Parker had a clone who had his memories up to the point where he was cloned.
Okay.
So because it was Peter Parker had an evil professor, Dr. Warren, who became the Jackal, who was another supervillain. And he also cloned Gwen Stacy, who was the true love of his life, who was dead at that time. And when those clones were activated, they had the memories of when they had their cells withdrawn, which was a couple of years prior to what was happening in the story at the time. And so they had these big gaps in their memories, but they also thought, oh, I don't know I'm a clone. But that was even more ridiculous fantasy because it wasn't even science fiction. It was a comic set in contemporary times.
I've always found this particular part of the story a little fantastical. In part because that's not how memory works.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not. There's like some esoteric theories which this is pulling from, and then Picard season 1 pulls from with Data.
Right. Or Tom Riker, who's like, well, I have my memories of being when I was transporter clone, I was 100%.
Tom Riker's different though, because he's an exact copy of a specific moment.
Yeah,
right.
So he's not a clone. So
he's a copy.
There's an idea that some memories are passed down genetically, all of that. Okay, there's a film that actually explains this a little. That has a better mechanism, I think, for this kind of thing. I don't know if anyone. It's a goofy film. The Sixth Day. It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah. It's an Arnie film. Yeah.
So
I know the one.
They basically have like a flash memory backup, literally flash through the ocular stem.
Oh yeah, and that's the movie poster because you see Arnie with the thing over his eyes.
Yep.
Yes.
So for me, that's the best sci-fi explanation we've had of clones having memories.
More phi as opposed to the psi.
Yeah. Well, for that one, actually, there's better science in it because this is more esoteric. So it is bullshit science, but it's still.
I would call the episode "Bullshit Science" if I thought I could get away with it.
Yeah, I'm saying the Sixth Day. It's bullshit science, but it's still a better technobabble explanation than just they have their memories somehow.
Yeah.
That's like one of my biggest nitpicks with this episode is
I hear you.
Yeah.
It helps the character to do the things that they want him to do because he's like in this next bit he's like, well, if we did this with the shuttle pods and we could do that because he has
those memories,
trips, memories, and abilities to do engineering, and that's very, very important for the rest of the episode.
Right.
But again, I don't think it makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and so things happen in a very predictable kind of fashion, and then at the end we go back to the cold open, playing the same scenes, and then Archer's giving this great speech, and you've already seen that Sim is in Sim is laying in the torpedo tube, and they pan over, and then there's Trip and Israel. And of course, the difference is he's wearing the uniform, but he doesn't have the pips and everything on it. So he's wearing a jumpsuit
or anything else.
So it's not hard to pick out. So, and then you have a cool sequence where they kind of launch him off into space like they did with Spock. So that's kind of a wrap on that. And in the time in between, he's like, I want to live and blah, blah. First of all, you're not going to live, dude. You're going to die in like a week.
Well, but as you remember, of course, he accuses Phlox of withholding information because there's a
slim chance.
There's a slim chance of something that he can do to actually keep him alive.
Oh, geez. Okay.
There's a certain enzyme that they can use.
There's an enzyme, always with an enzyme.
There's an enzyme that is so experimental, untested hardly. There's no guarantees, but he's like, but it's a shot.
And it would also render any tissue that they needed to transfer to Trip unusable.
Unusable, yeah.
Why am I conveniently forgetting about this? But I'm like, because maybe I'm just blocking it out because it's even in the realm of the whole ridiculousness of the concept of it. This just takes it too far. So, all right. So for the sake of time, I'll say this. I like the episode, but I will admit, as we were sitting here, I started lowering my score because I'm like, the more we talk about it, the dumber it sounds. So I said, it is a great sci-fi concept, a clone and whatever it is, and it creates a plot device that helps push forward a burgeoning relationship, a blossoming relationship between Trip and T'Pol, which it comes to a head pretty quickly here. And this is very much the Tuvix of the series, and I thought it was well done. There was definitely some heartbreak to it, but it was every weirdly telegraphed, didn't make it like if they could do this, why weren't they doing it in Kirk's time? Weren't they like, why didn't they do it with Spock? Why didn't it be like, well, Spock is dead, but I saved a finger, so let me take that and jam it into this orange, and then we'll have another Spock. You know what I mean?
Or Pike, here's a whole new non-radiation.
Give Pike a new body, where you're not going boop boop in a chair. You know what I mean?
Well, I was going to add real quick something about that because you noticed on the viewer he had the two little things on Trip's head. Well, like you were saying, by the 23rd century, when Chekhov has his brain injury, he's able to just put that thing on there and it's able to repair all the brain tissue.
Yep.
Right.
We don't have that technology yet.
But, again, Phlox is in a lot of ways akin to being the witch doctor because he's like, I got this thing on my shelf and I can. Yeah, it's a little far afield. So that being said, great. I love, Connor did great. Mm-hmm. I think Jolene did what Jolene does. John Billingsley, who is a friend of the show and a great guy, he was awesome. Scott was great. Scott Bakula was absolutely great. Had a lot of great, kind of captain-esque monologues. But the like predictable / unpredictable / even unbelievable by Star Trek standards, knocked this down to about a 6.5 for me out of 10. I liked it more going in, and then I liked it less the more that we're talking about it right now, which is, I know that's not fair. Chris, how would you rank this out of 10?
I would probably give it about a 7.3, give or roughly.
Oh boy, he's getting fractional.
Yeah,
and not on the round. All right, well, 7.3. How come?
Well, because one thing, I still like all the sci-fi piece of it, but what, like you were saying, unfortunately as we were talking, there are more aspects of it that just makes it go down.
Just go down.
But what I think I do like about it is the fact that it should make us think about what even we have today with our own technology in medical science of being able to, clone and or do stuff with like stem cells and all that type of stuff. So from that aspect of it, that's where I still like it. That's why, I was going to say probably a 7, but I gave it a few extra points just because of that aspect of it. But
right.
Because it's still, it does, the overarching story is ethical. It's an ethical conundrum. Should you, if you have the ability, even with, to say today's medical technology, to be able to fix something, hopefully just be able to do that with the technology we have today, should you do it? And so that's what I liked about it, because it does make you think, because I'll be honest, if I was in that situation and I don't know what I would do if, like they said, I wouldn't grow a person. I just could.
I wouldn't grow a person.
No.
I'd tell you, I'd love a new foot. My right foot is toast, but yeah, I got
that's
you.
Where I'm at with it, because
I hear you.
That part of it.
Yeah. All right, Peter, take us home, and then we'll get into some fun trivia.
I would tend to agree, putting it around a 7-ish. For similar reasons, I like the ethical dilemma that is focusing on medical ethics. A lot of the medical ethics episodes in Enterprise are very interesting. Hilariously, most of them I'm like, that was a terrible decision. But a lot of times they make that decision because like they are in really crappy. They don't have an option is usually what it ends up being.
Yeah.
Similar to this one. It's like they're up shit creek and they need Trip.
Right. Shit's creek.
So it's just one of those like,
yep.
Yeah. But for like some of the scientific reasons of like some of this doesn't make sense. The memory wise, like as a metaphysician, I take issue with that.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know what a metaphysician is, that's philosophy. It's not medical science, but
it does really feel fancier, doesn't it, Dr. Peter?
But it does apply to this particular thing, specifically with the memories and what makes Sim different from Trip. And so there's a little bit of that nature nurture thing going on in this episode, which is always interesting when you try to explore it. It's just maybe not done the best, but it's still a really interesting watch and makes you think. And those are the best Star Trek episodes.
Agreed. All right, let's run through some fun trivia. This was the first written contribution from, at the time, new co-executive producer Manny Cotto. Manny was also part of the Fox show 24, which is one of my absolute favorites. I talk about it all the time, and he passed away from pancreatic cancer a number of years back, which is, why we had occasion to speak with his brother and the rest of the Trek Pan-Can crew last year. And that is a cause. You'll find in our show notes a link to donate. I donate to that every time that comes up, because I feel very strongly about those folks finding aid and furthering that research. In the final draft script of the installment, Archer replied to Sim, hoping that his sister's fate doesn't happen to anyone else, by commenting, "That's why we're out here." In the final version of the episode, Archer says, "That's why I gave the order to create you." I think they should have stuck with the first one. Myself personally.
The second one does feel just a touch heartless.
Yeah, exactly. Adam Taylor Gordon, who played the young version of Tucker in the Xindi, played the version of Sin in Age 8. I thought it was the same kid. John Billingsley said this was what he felt was the strongest episode in the season. I don't know if I agree with you. He had a great role, but there are definitely episodes, that even in our breakdown of Enterprise, that in season 2 that I liked better. So this episode sees the return of the model Archer played with as a boy. Boy, he brought that with him. You think he'd have that in a case in his apartment back home? You know what I mean? Get blown up.
Never underestimate what submarine captains take with them.
Right.
I got it. First chronological mention of the tricorder happens in this episode in reference to Phlox's medical tricorder, and the only occurrence of the word in the series. This episode also established the NX type shuttlecrafts do not have bathroom facilities.
Who would have guessed just by looking at the freaking set?
You figured there would just be a thing you could flip up and and have a whiz.
That surprised me, especially after watching with the Shuttlepod 1
Shuttlepod
episode.
1, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What were those guys doing?
I mean, at most they would have the the Apollo or shuttle or space shuttle like hoses.
Yeah.
You just gotta pee into a Mountain Dew can, I guess.
Yeah.
Brandon Braga was delighted with this episode. Manny knocked it out of the park. He wrote a great script. Connor gave a great performance. And the arc is working because Similitude would not have worked last year. All right, cool. In this episode won an Emmy Award for Velton Ray Bunch's music composition. That's awesome. I didn't notice the music.
Music is pretty solid in this episode.
Was really standout. This is a popular outing with fans due to its moral complexity, and rated as the number 3 fan favorite. We're all missing the boat here, you guys. I guess everybody loves this except for us.
I'm always an outlier with some of those.
Yeah,
so.
I know. Number 3 fan favorite in an online poll conducted by UPN. Well, it's conducted by UPN. It's a little sus right there, isn't it? Let's face it. And it was rebroadcast on March 25 of 05, right before the series, right as the series was being canceled. In that context, and it said that poll was conducted before the last 6 episodes had aired. And there were some good ones in there, not including the finale. And then finally, the shuttle pods would have no difficulty pulling or pushing the Enterprise out of a nebula, as there is no gravity in space, and the ship is far enough from any stellar bodies. As seems to be the case here. Inertia would cause Enterprise to retain any momentum imparted by the pods, even incrementally. But then there would be no dramatic tension.
There's a slight explanation for that with the nucleonic particles causing a buildup of friction and pushing against it as they're clustering. That's the only explanation that, in my head, makes it work.
It's a cluster, all right.
Yeah, but other than that, I didn't. I agree, because those shuttle pods should have had zero problems pulling in.
If the ship was moving, you would have been able to keep it moving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's bodies in motion, right? So, all right, that's the wrap on Similitude, and that's a wrap on having Chris on our show. Chris, you have been incredible, man. Thank you for being here. Tell us how people can find yourself and the Transporter Room out there in the wide world of socials and YouTube. Please, wrap.
All right. Well, we're on YouTube at the Transporter Room, and that's where we're on Instagram at the basically just about everywhere we're at the Transporter Room, with the exception of Facebook and X, where it's at Transport Room. But you can still search it for there. But and we got Patreon at the Transporter Room as well. I'm on all those socials, every one of them. TikTok,
I hear you. Good deal. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. We love engaging with other great Trek podcasters. We think that it's an opportunity to share notes, and have a good time. So it's been awesome. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break while Chris leaves us, but we will be back to do our over and under on Star Trek PICARD. So we will be right back. All right, we're back. Great working with Chris. Super great dude. He will be, I'll bet, back with us for Strange New World, so you'll be hearing his voice again soon. But again, follow his links. They're down in the show notes to find the Transporter Room in various places. So, all right, we're moving right along. Gosh, we're almost done with these, Peter, because we have this one and Prodigy, because we're only covering shows that have ended, because we don't want to do top fives and bottom fives of shows that are still going on. So that'll be really tough if we were doing this and we had to cover poor Starfleet Academy, which is going to only have 20 episodes, which sucks. But I don't think we'll go back, and then we won't necessarily revisit the segment. But anyway, we've got our way all around to Star Trek PICARD, which is, of course, available primarily on Paramount Plus, but available on video demand and physical media. The entire series has been released. I have season 3 in physical media because I loved it so much. That was the one I'm like, if I'm going to have anything in this series, it's going to be just this. But we're gonna tackle this kind of the same way that we have in previous segments. And again, this is just our opinion. If you hate them all, if you love them all, this is an opportunity for you to reach out to us and say, hey, I really thought that you guys missed the boat on blank. Because I will admit, we're probably neither of us is as well versed in this as we are a lot of the Heritage series that we've talked about, just because it's newer. We haven't watched it as much. Peter deleted his notes, so he's kind of winging it.
That was a fun one that my computer decided to do to me.
Oh my gosh. So we're just kind of with it, but I'll get us rolling. And again, I picked a real softball for the and Peter, you and I talked about this. God, was that this morning or yesterday? We were playing pickleball. Was that yesterday? He said, I'm just afraid I'm going to pick all episodes from season 3. So I was glad that I picked a few that weren't.
I did,
but very few.
So, I have 3 from season 3 for my good ones. So I'm sure we can guess which ones they are.
Absolutely. All right. So I jumped in with the series finale 2-parter of Vogue. Was it Vogue? Vokes and The Last Generation. And I lumped them together because again, the whole series was a one continuous story with different threads and what have you.
Yeah. I had these ones on here too. So.
Yeah, done exceptionally well. I'm just such a massive, massive fan of what they did with this 3rd season, though there were a few things here and there that I'm like, well, that doesn't really make any sense, but that's sci-fi. Yeah. But this was arguably the end of the Next Generation era because we don't have another program that's going to step into this space unless something really miraculous happens, which I just don't have faith that it will. But we know what we've been surprised before. But as far as we know, this is the last we're going to end up seeing of these characters, and that's the opinion of some of the actors who are part of it, including Marina Sirtis, who, when I posed this question on the Star Trek cruise, got such a snarky response that it made Star Trek news. And if you watch the video of that panel, you can hear me asking the question. Her response. Oh boy. But regardless of that, I'm not trying to put Marina down. She's just a very spirited personality, and I respect that. Yep. But to me, this was kind of a masterclass in doing where Nemesis just completely, I'm going to use a bad expression, fucked it into the ground. I mean, and sent our characters off in a terrible, in some absolute terror. This sends them out in a great way where they're all arm in arm, and they're looking forward to their future. It's set in motion, which could be a sequel to it, which would be, the Titan is rechristened as the Enterprise and Seven is the captain, which is kind of a cool end to her. It's a cool evolution in her journey. Yeah. Young Jack Crusher, Picard, Beverly's son, kind of at their side, and really teed it up for what could be some super cool adventures that I think we're never going to see. But But it was a very pregnant moment of excitement. It gave us some beautiful visuals of the return of the Galaxy class Enterprise D, which we all love and enjoyed seeing that. What felt like it was an end to the Borg felt like, and it was especially considering how the Borg were treated in season 2, which we'll doubtlessly talk about as this list goes on. Yeah, probably. It was kind of where we needed to be with all that. So I enjoyed this immensely. This is the one of the episodes of Picard, even though I watched all of season 3 on a plane trip, back and forth on a plane trip. Not that I think is, I can't remember. Maybe it was when we were going on the cruise. So we were flying down to Orlando. I watched this on the plane, and then I watched it on the way back. So I managed to get through the entire season. Just really love watching again. But this final episode I've rewatched probably 5 times on its own.
That's fair.
Yeah. So well, cool. All right, that's me. All right, what's your first one?
Well, I actually have those 2 as well.
Oh, okay, very good.
On there, I put them as separate, but yeah. So Vox.
This episode just keeps getting shorter, so go for it.
So Vox, one of the things that I really liked about was that it had some really good character moments that were not the TNG crew. Because like one of the things that like some people are like, oh well, you're only focusing on the old characters. They didn't. This is one of those moments, especially where we get. This is the end of Shaw. Unfortunately.
Right.
But he has like this really, really beautiful moment where he recognizes Seven as Seven, not
in her personhood. Yes.
Or Commander Hansen. He finally sees the person, not the rank, not the former Borg, which is quite a lot of character development for the guy who's just this,
raging ball of bitter,
raging ball of traumatized bitterness.
Right.
You know,
Oh God, can I fit that into the name of the episode? Hold on, keep talking.
Raging ball of traumatic bitterness. Yeah,
here we go. Yep,
he's
that's
just
it.
so sad about everything. Like, and finally he's able to see her, and then she's able to stick around and help, you know, hold the line, which is just really, really good. And then with the end of Vox seeing the Enterprise, as much as I knew it was kind of a cliche, and you knew why they did it, because it was like, oh, we got to reunite, we got to get the band back together. There's just something about how they did the score, how they framed the shots, that just made that moment super powerful as someone who grew up with the Next Generation as just part of the, you know, the ether that I lived in.
Right, absolutely.
And so that was really cool. That was the moment when I decided I was buying the score for the season.
Yeah.
Because it's such a interesting and triumphant version of the Enterprise motif from Star Trek. That is just really well done. The Last Generation had some really good stuff. It had a fun little cameo from Walter Koenig as one of Chekhov's descendants. It's not clear how far down the line, but he's one of his descendants.
I thought he referred to Pavel Chekhov as his father.
Yeah, it's just, I think so.
Yeah, which would as long lived, and again, you know, Walter was with us on the cruise. He sat at our table at karaoke. He is 90 years old. So think about in several hundred years, people are going to live to be 200. So
but regardless, he's the president of the UFP. So he kind of, they pull a full like Star Trek 4, stay away from Earth, which is great. And then after this, there's like some interesting character development with Jack. This is where I get a little nitpicky about the finale. So like, as much as I want to like, oh, that's so amazing, there's some stuff that's a little iffy with, like, I didn't really love how they did the Borg here at the end, because they made the Borg Queen a vindictive, vendetta-driven villainess.
The Vivian, the villain.
Yeah, and it just didn't work for me with how we understand the Borg, especially when it's like, well, she cannibalized all of her drones so that she could survive. The Borg have better ways to do that.
Yeah, that's not really what they do. They don't eat. They don't need
to do that. So it was just like, that was weird, and I got it that it was the power of love that got Jack out of the collective. Okay, fine. That it was cheesy, but it worked. The Enterprise D flying like the Millennium Falcon, I kind of was like, ugh.
That didn't really fit the bill, because I never saw it as kind of an agile, sleek, not like the Enterprise D, you know, or Voyager or the Defiant, very sleek ships.
Well, the Enterprise D was a cruise ship. It wasn't a battleship, and it definitely wasn't a destroyer.
Right.
So it can't.
So you're right. For Data to be like, to have it like whipping around, and then at the end when it whips down overhead and it's like, whoa, it's like,
they literally pulled the parking brake and drifted, which was just
Enterprise drift.
Yeah, it was Jupiter drift.
Jupiter drift. Oh, that could be another. I like the first one that we're sticking with.
Picard season 3, Jupiter drift.
Drift.
So there's a lot of good things here, and like how it ends, but like the whole bit with how the Borg are used in this season, and particularly here at the end, where it's like, oh, they assimilated the young people, and it's only the old people who can get away with it, and we need analog. Which, hilariously, I've been saying for a long time about technology, you need to keep some things off of the net so that it runs.
Go back to your VHS.
Here they are using it. So we need an analog. This is the only fully analog ship. It's like you have a whole museum of ships, and they're like, it's the only functional one.
I'm sure
it would take very little to power up the Constitution Enterprise.
Pull a plug. It's like the Battlestar Galactica. You know, that was why they survived.
That's why they did it. So like, it's a commentary on like reliance on technology, and you know how sometimes you need the past to survive random things in the future where things don't go the way that they do.
Right.
Supposed to, but like killing off Shelby in a way that didn't make sense based on what we know of the character.
Right. And our twice conversation with the fantastic Elizabeth Denny.
Exactly.
Yes,
but just like having her promote that particular networking just didn't make sense.
Yeah. Right.
So like, these 2 episodes are really, 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 really good, but there's just some plot holes that didn't care for.
That you could fly a Galaxy class starship from. Yeah, no, absolutely.
You could, yeah, you could fly the Enterprise D from all good things, all three versions through.
That hole in the Devron system, which actually gets a name drop in that season.
It does, yeah.
But all right, well, since we were being negative, but now we can shift to the negative. I absolutely have to say that the season 2 finale, Farewell, was a dumpster fire of an episode.
It wasn't on my list because I was shooting at some other ones.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I agree.
Well, you can go through this with me. So, we had a season where I felt like they tried to focus on doing it on the cheap because it had a contemporary setting, and we're trying to make it a bit like Star Trek 4, but also we just shot it by driving around LA. That didn't necessarily work. But with this, we took, kind of destroying the character of Girardi. Okay, she wasn't great to start with. I mean, she murdered a guy in cold blood the previous season. We're like, You're still in our gang. It's
That's
totally
on my
fine.
List, but yeah.
Yeah. But in this, she gets Borgified. And at the end of it, so, they undo all the our people in the past undo all the damage that Q is trying to do, but you don't really know why he's trying to do it. And then you've got an ancestor of Sung.
And even in the end, it's not really clear why Q decided to do what he did.
And it's also the whole Borg piece of it makes zero sense because, Shaw makes a reference to, well, forget about that bullshit with the Borg and their vacuum hole or whatever the hell it is. They're still out there. And I'm like, and then Wesley shows up. I'm not going to rag on the character of Wesley, but
his appearance in Prodigy was better.
His appearance in this was... So I wrote, just make it stop. And thank God it was the last episode of a bad season, so it did stop. And then we got season 3, and I thought season 3 was incredible. I don't think they necessarily needed to dump all of the characters from seasons 1 and 2. I liked Rios. I liked Elnor a lot. We talked about the episode The Impossible Box recently from season 1, and I liked both of those characters, but Rios got he got
left in the past, which was just weird.
But I mean, he got the end into a story where Elnor was just like, all right, dude. It never comes.
Elnor got shot, and then he just kind of stays on the ship, and then he's alive at the end of Farewell,
right? And then you never hear from the Stargazer again. So it's like, why aren't they all still on the Stargazer? So it was a terrible ending to a really bad season. And as I said again, we don't necessarily rank how good or how bad something is. We just have a list of 5. I would, however, put this at the top of my bad ones. I just really didn't care for anything they did in this episode.
Yeah. So one of the bad ones for me, I have several season 2, unfortunately.
It is unfortunate that we're piling on, but I mean, it is what it is, right?
But if we're saying these are the ones that I dislike the most, these are the ones that I dislike the most. So,
right.
Season 2, episode 5, Fly Me to the Moon.
Fly Me to the Moon.
It has
all
a
right, talk
lovely
to me about it.
title, but the episode is trash.
Oh my God, yes.
So this is an episode where we get Picard kind of figures out what's going on with his ancestor flying to Mars, basically.
Right. The very comely Rene Picard.
Yeah. And we get, which Rene Picard does show up as a reference in some other stuff in Generations, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Rene, this is not the first time we've heard the name, but when you first heard it, it wasn't clear, because French, whether or not it was a man or a woman.
Right.
So we find out here it's a woman. So astronaut going to Mars. Okay. So Q is manipulating the timeline, but and so he meets with Sung and starts doing this stuff, but we start also getting this idea that he's going nuts. And that was a little, it was curious in an interesting way, but also a why.
Right.
So that, but then the thing that kind of just really, it was part of the thing that I didn't really like about it being set in the present day, because when you set it in present day, sometimes you're caught up in specific politics of the day that often ages poorly.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so with this particular one, it was Seven and Rafi try to rescue Rios basically from an ICE detention center.
Yeah.
And the way that it's handled,
that's continued to age worse in just the last 2 years.
But I'm just saying, like, the way that they handled it was not with any sort of humanity.
Yeah.
And so it was very much, it was, okay. So in like past tense in Deep Space Nine, right? They have the camps and all of that. And you still see like the folks that are in charge, like they're doing bad shit, but there are some like humans doing bad shit. Here it was very much, these are caricatures of just stormtroopers.
Right.
Doing bad shit.
There was no actual through line of it.
There was no like, maybe there's a reason why these people are doing what they're doing. Maybe there's someone we can appeal to. Like maybe there's a human being who works here.
To some kind of a solution.
Yeah,
like you said,
nothing.
like with past tense in DS9, where, you know, we met people who were like, well, I was just following orders, or I didn't know what to do, or I felt powerless.
But we didn't have that. We didn't have the I'm just following orders. I need a job. Jeez, this sucks. We didn't have any of that. It was just like, I'm a bad guy. And then we shoot him.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was it rubbed me the wrong way, because it was very much using Star Trek to not to comment, but to bash. And I don't like it when they do that.
Right. Right.
I don't think it lands well. And generally it's because the writing, it bleeds through that this is the author, not the characters. And so
that's fair.
So that's part of why this episode is just kind of blank.
Right. So. I gotcha. All right. Well, let's try to talk some positivity.
Yeah.
And a lot of this, a lot of my choice here is in a lot of ways kind of some rose-colored glasses. It was like, oh my God, they're back. But the series premiere was called Remembrance. And there has been since 2002, when Nemesis came out, in 2019, when this came out, 2019, 2020, I'd have to check the dates. There has been a buttload of beta canon. Oh, they did this, and then, you know, the Rikers did this on the Titan, and Beverly and Picard got married, and then they had a kid, which they ended up having a kid, but it was just in a very different way. Yeah. So this was finally canon coming back and saying, this is what's going on with the character. It's been, you know, 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, 20 years. And this is where his life has taken him, and it's definitely different.
It's a bummer.
Yeah, Picard resigned out of, you know, principle from Starfleet. He's exiled himself onto the family vineyard, and he's just doing the vineyard thing. And he has a couple of Romulan, I wanted to say manservants, but kind of helpers. And he's got a dog named Number One, and he's doing the retirement thing, but having, you know, weird visions of Data and what does this mean? And then it all comes back around when you meet, you know, Daj. the Daj and her sister, who lives for like 5 minutes. And I thought it was very pregnant with possibilities, you know, and I've gone a lot back and forth on season 1, particularly when you have season 3 to compare it to, of liking it and just thinking they did some things that were really stupid. Particularly like the Borg Reclamation Project. You and I have gone back and forth on like, oh, you know, that doesn't really make any sense, you know, kind of everything that they're doing. But this inspired, like I said, this gave us back the next generation characters in a way that we'd not seen in the 20 years that led up to this. So it was very exciting, and whether things went great from that or they went a little funky and sideways, which they did, at this moment with this episode, I was absolutely on board. I was totally engaged. I was very excited.
Fair. To give season 1 a little bit more love, I will say episode 7, Nepenthe.
Oh, I have that too. Yes. I have that too. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So this episode, we get our first reintroduction of some other TNG characters, because when the series was first announced, we were under the impression that there would be no TNG characters
it's
at all.
It's going to be Picard.
Yeah, just Jean-Luc and a brand new crew. But there
was early name drops of Geordi and Worf. But
we never saw them in season 1.
But we never saw them. Yeah, and they never got mentioned in season 2 either. No.
But this one we finally get, like, what have the Rikers been up to? Again, it's a bummer, and that's one of the things.
It's a very sad story.
It's not something that's my favorite thing of like the premise of why they're there, but the fact that we got like Picard needing Riker's help. Riker's like, I'll do it. I'll help you.
And you saw the depth of that connection is what really clicked it for me.
The familial connection between
that's what I love. That's what I wrote.
Deanna and Jean-Luc, like you can see it there, and it's kind of funny when you have like Soji like walking around like I don't know what's going on here. And it's like oh no, and then like Deanna has a talk with her, and like you have some really good stuff that's going on. The cooking the pizza is hilarious.
The bunny corn.
So like there's some really, really good stuff here with just character development and like because you see like Picard was the godfather of their son who then unfortunately
passed away. Right. But, and it ties back into the ban on synthetic technology because there would have been a way to really save him, but it was illegal to do so, which I can't believe they didn't.
I don't understand. I don't understand.
Can't believe
most
how they didn't find a way to get around it.
Like the B plot in season 1 is. Well, I'll get to that when we get to some of the later episodes because I have some season 1 stuff. But like the B plot around there is a little funky for as to why this worked. So that's why like I love the quote unquote vibe of the episode and what they were doing with the characters. The plot bits maybe not as much, but the episode as like just a character piece is really interesting.
Right. I absolutely loved it. And again, a tragedy with the Rikers and the lost son and everything, and then the daughter who is just a kind of a pip. The whole like made up language thing, whatever. I found that kind of obnoxious, but you know what? I'll give it a pass.
I made up languages as a kid, so I totally got that one. That was fine with me.
That is fair, but it was really those touching moments where Riker is, Jean-Luc's got holding it, because they're so close in real life, Stewart and Frakes, and the atmosphere on that set and between those actors, they've always been so close, or were close at the time that really spoke to me. I really dug that. All right, let's talk Bummersville, USA.
Yay!
With the season 2 finale at an Arcadia.
Oh,
did I get that
Arcadia, right? Ego,
yeah. There you go. Lego my ego. Yes, that is the season 1 finale. This is part 2 because it was
it literally means like and I in Arcadia. That's what it means.
Right. Arcadia, isn't it? That was one of the GM vehicles. I think one of the big SUVs. And never mind.
Oh yeah, but no.
This is what I'm talking about.
This is a Odyssey reference, I believe.
Yeah. Yes. So while Picard becoming a bot is not like super unforgivable, but a little ridiculous because they photocopied his brain, and it's it's like from the comics version of the Vision from the Avengers. Yeah. His brain is a photocopy of Wonder Man, the Simon Williams, who in the MCU parlance just had a new TV show, and there's no connection that way. But that's how his brain pattern was created. Is they took him and dropped him in there, and Ultron created him, and that's the way it worked in the comics. Back in the '60s when he was introduced, and that's kind of what this is. They took a photocopy of Picard's dead brain, or when it was close to being dead, and they turned him into a non-superpowered robot. I mean, I think it kind of would have been cool to see him defeat the strength and stuff. Yeah, exactly. The 6th day, right? Exactly, right back again. But I thought I was kind of like, why did they do that? Because it's never relevant to the story ever again. He doesn't do robot stuff. He just goes on being a normal guy.
Yeah, the only thing that it like gets mentioned once of like, oh yeah, your synthetic body isn't going to trip any of the sensors.
Right. Okay. So he doesn't have a metal plate in his head or several metal plates in his head?
You've got something in you and you still show up as a biological organism in every sensor that you have. Okay. Like that's the only thing. That's the only thing. Who gives a shit? I think it's mentioned once in season 3, and you're just like,
So I found that really pointless. But Riker and his photocopied fleet of like 20 ships that were exactly the same, that really rubbed me the wrong way. And I wrote nothing like wrapping things up without having a real ending or any stakes.
Yeah,
because it just seemed dumb. Now they're all just going to go off and be on an adventure together. Yet when season 2 starts, they're all well. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I just felt like here's an ending. And they had some interesting story and voyages and things that they did during the season. Not all of them were great, but this ending was kind of like, it was a fart in church. Which is kind of, you know what I mean?
Kind of, yeah.
I found it kind of flat. All right, what do you got?
All right. Just to get away from my season 2 smash a bit, I will list a season 1 episode.
Oh, okay.
As a bummer. Season 1, episode 5, Stardust City Rag.
Oh, yeah. Gruesome for the sake of being gruesome.
Yeah, so this episode has so many things wrong with it. We have Picard's horrific French accent that he does to try to pretend to be a facer. And it's like, why?
What are
you're dressing up like stereotypical 1987 pimps, and at least that's what Rios reminds me of,
right?
And
who had the eye patch? Was that Picard?
That was Picard. Picard had the
there
eye
you
patch.
go.
He had the eye patch with the beret, and it was just like, oh my gosh, it was so bad. And then they go there and they're talking to Vaj, I think her name is. Which is a terrible name, by the way.
Worse is Vag. Was that her name?
It's spelled that way, but they pronounce it differently.
Yeah.
So it was just anyway. So they're debating with her, and it ends up being a fight. They're trying to figure out where Maddox is. They do get away, but you have like the solution is Seven comes in, goes full murder hobo, kills everybody.
Murder hobo. Oh, that almost be a better name. I don't want to get away from the one you give me.
That's a D&D term. When your party just decides to kill everything for no reason.
Oh my God.
So Seven goes full murder hobo, kills everybody, not just like the person she hates. She kills everyone.
Right.
And then the drummer from Scott Pilgrim, Girardi, decides to just straight up murder Maddox.
That's right. That's what I'm like. And then it was just like, well, you obviously didn't have a choice, so it's totally it never comes up again.
Like it does come up, like she reveals it like 2 episodes down the road.
Right. You're right. Vup was the I was thinking of Bejazel, which is another terrible name.
That's who it is.
Because it's Vag and Bejazel, which is like kind of a little bit like Vajayjay. So there are two things talking about female private parts.
Like the naming convention was just so awful.
Yeah, Vup and Bejazel.
Yeah. No. So regardless, I mean, she did look like a really young Marina Sirtis, which was weird.
Yeah. That same actress was on one of the seasons of 24 too. So
it was one of those like, hey, you could have done a really cool flashback with Deanna, but no. We're not going to do that. Oh, and the beginning of that episode also included the absolutely pointless we're going to murder Icheb. Like it just they just did so many things in this episode that were just
and absolutely brutal,
so terrible. And like they're like, oh well, Icheb, a Starfleet officer, gets kidnapped somehow by medical, like underground medical people who are just
pirates
tearing people apart for their implants,
right?
And he gets his implants torn out of him. 7 of 9 gets to him, but can't save him because he's just gonna die, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the transporter doesn't work or something.
Right.
It's like put him into stasis. You can do that.
Right.
And so it's like
people can save, like any medical issue can be pretty much addressed by
Yeah.
Starfleet Medical. Yeah.
But it's like he dies, and so this is the reason that Seven's now pissed, and it's like
it's what
makes her go murder hobo. And it's just like it's just
I love it.
It's such a bad episode with such bad character development and such shitty reasoning for why people do what they do. And then we recast like 2 of the characters and when the actors were still around.
Yeah.
Like we recast each. Granted, he was supposed to be a younger version, so I get that because you see like just barely enough of his face that it doesn't matter too much.
It's supposed to be an older version, you mean?
Yeah,
so yes.
Yeah, but but younger than what Manu is now.
Oh, right.
That's my point.
Because it's supposed to be 20 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get it. It's kind of like, whatever. But
right.
then we also completely recast Maddox because the guy who plays Maddox still looks like a really happy math teacher instead of like this,
And he is a really happy math teacher. He works in the private sector.
He's a really happy math teacher. And so they recast him to be this other like haggard looking dude.
Who looks nothing like the other actor.
Doesn't look like him at all. So it's just, there's just so many strange decisions.
It was
direction.
It was kind of recast bonanza.
That's why you can rag on the Stardust City rag.
Riggedy rag. Well, I've got 2 good ones left, and I'm going to kind of how many did we gobble up all your
I've got 2.
Okay. I'll do these two together, and if you want to do, are yours connected? Mine are connected.
Mine are not.
Okay, then I'll do mine together, and then
mine might fall in line with one of yours, but I don't think the one does.
Could be. Well, in season 3, Dominion and Surrender were, I think, 7 and 8. Okay. And this is where we see Vatic, who's the evil changeling, exposed as being an evil changeling. And you find out kind of why she became as evil as she did. Like she was tortured. And was it Section 31 or was it just Starfleet?
It was Section 31.
Yeah. It was Section 31. So I loved all of that, giving some love to DS9, which happens so rarely, though it's happened more and more as time has gone by with Lower Decks and then with Starfleet Academy. So I love seeing that. It laid bare the villainy of the Changeling, the villainy of Section 31 and the Federation. I love that. And then in Surrender, we got some real stakes where my pal, who I got to spend some time with at Star Trek Long Island, Stephanie Tchaikovsky, as the Vulcan Delta, just gets vaporized, and it happens just like that. Because it was one of these eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and I was like, oh. But that just took things to another level. And you just don't get a lot of that with, and they had spent... Steph was in 6 of the episodes of that season, which is rare for a background player. Got some real dialogue, didn't get, and somebody who you could see have going on to continue to be a character.
Interesting character visually and everything else.
Yeah. So it was kind of a cruncher because I recognize her, and then we've become friends through the show and doing stuff. And so it was really kind of a white knuckler. It was really keeping me on the edge of the seat, and I really kind of enjoyed that. So but yeah, that's the end of my good. You go ahead and do your 2 good though, and then we'll finish with the lousy.
Okay, so you want me to do both good ones? Okay.
Yeah, do one, and then I'll go back and do a bad.
So
yeah,
I will.
'Cause I got 3 bad left, but I can trim it. How many bad do you have?
I've got 1, 2. I have 3, but 2 are kind of an arc. So
okay. So we'll lump it. So you do a good, I'll do a bad, and then you do.
And then
we'll
see if they cross-pollinate at all.
Right, exactly.
So to just steer clear of season 3 just for a minute, because my last one is a season 3, but I'll just step off of that because let's get a little bit controversial, I suppose. And one of my good ones is season 2, episode 2, Penance.
Oh, the Confederation.
This was the Confederation episode. And the reason that I have this as a good episode is this was one that could have teed up a really interesting story.
Right.
Because this one had
they immediately swerve away from it.
They immediately screwed it up.
They're like, hold on, Tokyo Drift.
Yeah. And it's Jupiter Drift, guys.
Let's get away from something that could be compelling and interesting into a boring ass present day time travel story.
But this one, right at the end of the previous episode, we had Q appear and snap himself to old man Q, and you're like, oh shit.
Right.
And then at the beginning of the episode, we get to see, no, you're not Admiral Picard, the Federation wonder child. You are Admiral
the
Picard,
Borg Slayer.
The Borg Slayer, the evil head of Starfleet of the Confederation, who just goes around and just murdering people. He has his trophy room with Sarek and Martok and Dukat and Jem'Hadar and a Ferengi, all of these just skulls of his enemies.
I know, and they show the Enterprise of that. They show the Enterprise D, the World Razor Enterprise or something.
Yeah.
It's you're right. They could have teed this up, and then the little Easter egg.
Really interesting black evil monster maroon uniform.
Yeah, and they name drop and on screen Cisco, Tasha Yar, Tuvok, Chakotay, I think, and Janeway, I think it's a name drop. So
it's kind of it's kind of leaning into the Battleship Voyager thing.
Yeah.
From, what was it? A Living Witness in Voyager.
Oh yeah.
So it was kind of leaning into
Voyager,
it was leaning into that kind of vibe. And 7 was the president of the Confederation, and you had all this thing where they're trying to figure out what's going on, and they don't know who knows what and who remembers who.
Right.
So they're all trying to figure that out, and that's really interesting. Where they've replaced their alternate version counterparts. Kind of mirror, mirror, and they're trying to figure out but they have even less idea because they didn't all end up on the same transporter pad. So they're just what the hell's going on? And Q's there's a lesson here, ha ha ha. And so you have all this idea of something's up. Something could be really interesting. We have this alternate timeline we can explore. Like, we can have the Trek feel and the vibe of like the technology, but that we can look at, because we were told that it would be a darker season, right?
Right.
And it was like, okay, so we can explore the dark side of humanity here, and then absolutely not. Like even in this episode, bringing in like, here's an alternate version of the Borg Queen after we completely killed her off in Voyager and First Contact separately.
Yep.
And so you're like, all of these like, there's so many interesting parts. I remember at the end of this episode going like, because they escape the planet, they don't go back in time yet at the end of this episode. So the end of this episode, you're like, this could be a fascinating story. And so I just want to say that as an episode by itself, ignoring the rest, because you kind of have to, in terms of like just looking at like the value, like the value of this story as an interesting tee up. If it was teeing up something about this, would have been absolutely amazing. This was well written. Like the tension and everything was kept up really, really well. So this was a good episode. Out of season 2, I think it was the best one.
Yeah. Which, and it wasn't even part of the main.
It had nothing to do with the main plot. No, other than them bringing the Borg Queen. That was the only thing that altered the plot.
Right.
And Elnor getting hit by something.
And exactly. All right. So in season 2, 2 of 1 was another one of my bummers. So now, admitted, Girardi in that dress, damn, nice. However, she's belting out a Pat Benatar song, and they're at some fancy event or something. And doesn't she then assimilate a bunch of car batteries or something?
Something like that, yeah.
They're this was just 100% circling the drain. And they were, I didn't write down which, this was maybe in the middle of the season.
This was 6.
Yeah. Season 2 did not know if it was coming or going. And you just described it. They had this, the first episode was like, because I think, and I'll do this, and I'll segue this back in, because I mentioned the first episode was, it's 5 minutes later, and all of a sudden everybody's back in Starfleet, high level positions. Rios has got his own ship. Picard's commandant of Starfleet Academy.
Seven's commander of Stargazer.
Raffi's welcome back, even though she's this, crack smoking wine-aholic kind of gal.
She's also a traumatized ball of bitterness.
Right, exactly. So it's like, and then here's the Borg. I said, from the prior season, everyone was a pirate. Now everyone is back in Starfleet. Yeah. And then you're in an alternate reality with Q, and then in the lazy, boring past. And I said, my head hurts. And that's how I felt about these 2 episodes. Yeah. And really, to be perfectly honest with you, I'll string it right into my final one, which is Assimilation from season 2, that's
right
episode 3.
That falls pretty. Is it 3 or is it later?
No, because I think it was the one you were talking about, the second episode, and then I feel like they get into the past. It's modern day LA before it falls into the ocean, which happens in 2047, according to Janeway from Futures Past, and then it gets rebuilt, which we see in episode 1. Like, Guiana's got a bar in LA that's been there for 200 years. I'm like, no, LA fell into the ocean, but I guess they fixed it. I guess. She's like a snarky bartender. She doesn't know Picard, but she should know Picard from Time Zero, which was 150 years before
I wiped
this.
The whole Guinan thing from my head.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously they cast a new actress to be Guinan because they need somebody who's young.
Which I understand, but they didn't get someone who looked remotely like Whoopi Goldberg.
Well, they were carrying over the trend from season 1 with Maddox and Icheb.
That's fair.
They were let's pick this guy. He doesn't look anything like him, and he's black, not white, or something. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
And
no one will be able to tell the difference. Yeah.
They got 10 episodes, and 8 of them are all filmed in LA on the street.
Yep.
I wrote my head is continuing to hurt. So, I mean, the first episode sucked, didn't make any sense. Second episode, you made the point, man, if they did this Confederation thing where these people are even scarier than the Mirror Universe, like way scarier than the Mirror Universe.
Like way worse.
Like do something like this. Nope, we're going to take you back to LA and we're going to do a version of Star Trek 4 that is a lot less funny. And that's what we got. And we're going to try to make jokes. We'll bring back the punk on the bus, and Seven and Rafi are going to scare the shit out of him. And he lives in LA now because all he does is ride buses and listen to punk music.
Yep.
It's bad. All they need to do is bring back Wesley. No offense to Will Wheaton, and it could have been that much worse. Oh, that's right. And again, what's her face wasn't really a part of this. Daj. Because
no, she was just left on her planet. I think she gets like a really quick cameo at the beginning.
You're
of
on a
1.
book tour now, and yes, because they integrated the actress Issa Baronis, who is now very good in the pit, as what ended up being a creation of Sung, like being the first Sung droid or something. Now I can't even really remember. Yeah, Corey. Yeah, that's kind of where I leave. That's kind of where I leave you.
Yeah.
But what were your last couples? Just go ahead and roll through them.
So I've got 3, but one's kind of the 2 are kind of an arc. So I have basically episodes 7, 8, 9, and I guess also 10 if we want. You already talked about it, of season 2. So that's monsters and hide and seek are the ones that I mentioned, 7 and 9.
Yeah.
Forget what 8 is. 8 is Mercy. The main reason that I put these ones way at the bottom is that these 2 episodes specifically, but the 3 episodes in general, are the episodes where we really do some serious character assassination of Picard.
Yeah.
There's no way for me to delicately say it. I'm sorry, but like the way that we just absolutely destroy his past and turn it into something that it never was and never should have been.
The stuff with his parents.
With his parents. So
his dad is Baltar, which is weird.
That's funny, but also just bizarre, especially because like he doesn't recognize him and he's in a Starfleet uniform. Maurice Picard freaking hated technology, would have nothing to do with Starfleet. They made that very clear.
And then they turned into the fact that his mother committed suicide. Excuse me for saying so. And a lot of people were very delicate about that.
His mother was super, super depressed for some reason. It's not really clear.
Right.
It's kind of implied that Maurice was abusive, and then they're like, oh, wait, maybe he wasn't.
Because I don't really remember. And then we do know from one of the very first episodes of TNG that Picard's mother aged to be an old woman, but then in this, Picard says, I would have these fantasies where I imagined that she was still alive. It's like, what?
Yeah, so the justification is that in that episode, it was a fantasy of his. And it's like, he would not So,
and Picard, you're right, character assassination, you're right. Picard did not have that kind of personality.
No, he didn't have that, like, and everyone's like, oh, well, you can hide it. I'm sorry, I've had trauma in my past, and of course, if you know what you're looking for, you can see it in me. When, like, I'm not saying like I go all over the place, but but you know, if you know what you're looking for, you can see it. And Picard's character throughout the entirety of Next Generation, until we got to Best of Both Worlds, didn't have that underlying trauma.
He was very buttoned up.
He was very buttoned up, and it wasn't like, oh, I'm just a stiff asshole. It was like he was very prim and proper because that's just the way that he was raised.
Right.
And I mean, even through like the TNG, we got the story that his dad was a hard ass. That you could argue that's a trauma of some sort, but
for sure.
But it's not the my mom went off herself sort of trauma.
Exactly.
And offed herself in a way that made me think it was my fault. And
then my brain was broken. And then
my dad had to take this whole thing where he worked with Starfleet Medical to help put my mind back together. That is none of what we know of Picard.
And no reference to his brother, who was a pivotal part of
and there's
Picard's
no reference to Robert, because Robert was a jerk when he was growing up.
He was a dick older brother. I've got one too. I get it.
Like, I mean, he still did love his brother. Like, you see that, but but he was still a dick. And, and so it's just like there's no mention of Robert at all. Maurice is way too tech savvy. And
it's like whoever put all this together didn't even spend any time on Memory Alpha reading anything about Picard's backstory.
It comes to one of the things that like I just don't like about season 1 and 2, and I got into an argument with someone about that. But there's a lot of like, I'm setting it in this universe and I want to tell a specific story about something that I am going through, and so I'm going to put it there. I'm going to do catharsis through script writing. So like season 1 was about what had a lot to do about growing old and dying, because I'm not going to name names because I don't want to do that right now, but like because one of the writers had experienced a death in the family.
Right.
Completely understandable, but it didn't fit the character. And it also it lessened who Picard was as a person, I think, because it just anyway. And then in season 2, we have this one was more a specific request of Patrick Stewart to put this sort of thing in it, because there was some familial thing that he wanted to kind of explore and work through. And it's like, okay, that's something that you can explore, but it doesn't belong. Like, you and Jean-Luc Picard are very, very similar, because you've been the only person who's played him, aside from cameo things or whatever. But your past is not identical to Jean-Luc Picard's past. Jean-Luc Picard is a different person. Right. So to say like, well, I have this rough past, and so now Picard needs to have a rough past, doesn't fit with the character. Right. So this arc of episodes just really, really do not do justice to Jean-Luc Picard. And then there's other shit going on, like assimilated SWAT teams and stuff that's just weird.
Right. Exactly.
But those aren't the parts of the episode that annoy me. They're sci-fi schlocky fun, whatever. But it's the exploring Picard's mind and exploring the trauma that's just, I think it's some of the worst exploration of a character I've seen,
or exploitation
in Star Trek.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say ever, but in Star Trek.
Yeah.
So
right.
So that's that arc. Do you want me to hit my last bad one or my last good one, or which one?
You tell me.
Let's do the bad one, and then I'll end it on a good note. How's that?
Okay, there you go.
So the next bad one that I have is season 1, episode 8, Broken Pieces.
Okay.
And this one, primarily, I don't like this one. One, Hugh dies.
Right. Yeah.
In a way that doesn't.
And why?
It's like, this did not need to happen. Don't bring back a cool character just to murk him. But the main thing for me about this particular episode is we finally get a revelation of what all of these visions that Soji has been having. Like what does the double rainbow mean? What does the ring mean?
Oh man, yeah.
And it's like the whole explanation of the Quat. Not the Quat, those are good ones. The other past Tal Shiar evil people, whose I'll remember at some point.
It was the
Zhat Vash.
Zhat Vash.
Yeah, those guys.
Of course.
So we have another super secret organization within the Romulans that apparently is only women. At least those are the only people on screen.
Ouch, that's a little problematic.
Which is just, again, it's just weird choice.
Yeah.
There's like, you can do that. It's just you already had the Qowat Milat being pretty much only women, and it being a big deal that Elnor was there, and then the Zhat Vash are just the evil version. Okay, strange.
Right.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We get a revelation that like they're trying to deal with some evil machine gods that are, kind of
always
like Cthulhu-esque, trying to invade the galaxy and destroy them. The sad thing is that this is, and the reason I put this here is in part because season 1 is just a rehash of the plot of Mass Effect, the video game from the early 2000s.
Yeah, you have said.
And this is legitimately just reinterpreting the vision that your character Commander Shepard has within the first 20 minutes of the game. And so we see their version of the Reapers pop through a hole in the final episode, and then they get sucked back into dimensional space wherever they are. But this is the episode where we finally get like the full plot reveal, and I just remember going, "Oh no, not this!" I love Mass Effect, but not this. Is the laziest thing you could have done. Because most of us who have played Mass Effect love Star Trek, and so now we're seeing this and going, no, don't do it.
How could you?
And I just did not find that very compelling. Especially with how they were doing, because they were literally following Mass Effect's reveals beat for beat, and it was just like, this is not new. We're not doing anything interesting. We're not doing anything like new. And then the problem is, like, we got into later seasons and it never came back. which to be fair, it wasn't a good story, so don't. But if you're going to have like this evil power that could destroy the galaxy,
yeah,
I'm just going to leave that over there.
That's okay. Just put it up on the shelf like in Flox's
it's not
menagerie.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
it's worse than the bluegill from from season 1 of TNG, which my fan show deals with.
Yes, indeed.
But
it came up in one of the beta novels.
Yeah, some of the beta stuff does as well. But like this is something that's like an existential threat, and we're just gonna like meh. It's fine.
Meh.
So it just
it'll be fine.
Yeah. So it was just I didn't like it because it was just the revealing of just a shit plot. And also in like the weirdest way. And there's hilariously a special effects goof. When they're grabbing the metal, they're grabbing the energy pipe. There's a shot where it's literally PVC pipe. They forgot to put the VFX over it.
Oh no!
Which is awful. Like, it's like
this has the power of PVC.
There's the goofs all the time, but the problem is when you're looking at it on screen, you're like, this looks like PVC pipe that they've rotoscoped over, and then you see the shot, and like, it is PVC pipe that they rotoscoped over.
It's like a cat's butthole in the movie Cats.
Yeah. So anyway, for killing off Hugh, and then for just shit, it's just not good.
All right. Well, tell me something good, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right. I have, for my last good one, Season 3, Episode 5, Imposters.
Oh,
this is the return of now Lieutenant Commander, or maybe full Commander, I don't remember, but Commander Ro Laren.
It's Commander. Yeah, Commander Ro Laren.
Return of Commander Ro Laren. Not the last time we'll see her. She's coming back in a video game later this year. But this was the first time that we've seen Ro since Preemptive Strike in TNG season 7.
And again, beta canon, she had this huge arc in all those DS9 novels, but it's beta canon.
Yep, but it's beta canon.
So with this, you're right, T. You know, she was in prison. She was a kind of deprogrammed. She got back into Starfleet. She became super duper intelligence woman, and then showdown with Picard. That's what this episode was all about.
Yeah, this episode was all about her showing up and like there's something funky going on and we got to figure out what's up. And I think this episode also had a confrontation with Shaw and Picard.
Was that this one?
It was either this one or the one right before, because it was in the same set. That's the problem.
Right. Yeah, it was this. The set wasn't it Guinan's bar?
It was Guinan's bar. Yeah.
Yeah, which of course, So that is their set, their kind of moving set.
Yeah. So,
and that was absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, and just if Shaw's in this episode, that sets it up as being really good too. But the way that this was an episode that showed to me that they read and watched stuff for season 3 and
they understood,
because the way that Picard and Ro were written, that conversation, you felt that it was a absolute pickup from the last moment of just Ro's gosh, I'm sorry, and Picard's fury at her leaving.
The stratified layers of resentment just going.
And like the way that because Ro was able to say like, you wanted me to be you and you wouldn't let me be my own officer. And Picard was like, how dare you betray the uniform? Why are you back? It was just the tragedy between those two characters was fleshed out really, really well. And you could see it on the way that like Michelle was acting and Patrick was acting. Like it was so well done. It was one of my favorite moments of the entire season was that interaction. Cause like Ro shows up and she's being a hard ass and is like interviewing people and like putting people in brigs and like she's just being a pain. And then she finally is able to figure out like Picard's not compromised. This isn't, it's not what I originally thought, but there's still something terrible going on. And then, she gets blown up, but
but nobody. Remember, she and Shelby, maybe they're doing Thelma and Louise throughout the galaxy.
Who knows? Maybe they are. But like, this was just one of those episodes that when we were like, what are some of my favorite episodes? This was one. Cause I remember just Ro's reappearance and just the way that like Michelle just stepped back into that role and commanded the screen was just absolutely amazing. And just seeing Ro and Picard go toe to toe in a way that was so believable, did not assassinate either character, allowed them to get into that hurt and that and that just that drama between the two characters, and then actually come to a reconciliation was just amazing writing and amazing acting. So.
100%. All right. That is the wrap on Star Trek Picard. And so, we only have one of these left. We're going to be talking about Prodigy in our next episode. We're going to get a special guest who is a Prodigy expert who's sometimes hard to reach. So I will have to intensify my reaching out to her to see about getting her back on. She's been on the show before. But that's our show. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. Peter, where do people find you out there if they want to debate the finer points of season 2 of Star Trek Picard?
Yeah, if you want to come after me for some of my hot opinions, go for it. I am around the interwebs at Patrice Aquinas. You can find me on most social media. I'm not terribly active, but if you poke at me and say, fight me about this episode, I may say something. Otherwise, you can find me over on ELH's Twitch, YouTube, and Discord, where we do Star Trek adventures primarily. Load of fun. And then you can also find me behind the scenes on Starship Excelsior, and we are getting ready to release a new episode.
And we just had, and you've got to get the links out. James Heaney was out on our YouTube just this week.
Had an interview with one of the main creators of Excelsior.
So definitely visit our YouTube channel. You'll be able to see Peter's conversation with James, who is a contributor to our network as well. Where you can find me on all of the socials. I run our Secret Friends Unite socials, but I also run my own. So Secret Friends Unite you can find anywhere. I am at the C3 at most socials. TheCeeThree. I've got to get back on the horse of doing my little 3-minute kitchen chats where I talk about stuff that we don't cover on our 4 shows. So look for me. That'll be on YouTube, on my socials as well. And again, if you're joining us coming over from the Trek Geeks Network, welcome. If you're new to it, do remember you can visit fansets.com. They do have a lot of the badges that we described, but they also have fun pins and things like that that commemorate certain characters and different episodes and themes and fun stuff. But you're going to save 10% by using the code, all caps, one word, Trek Geeks, and spend $30 more, which is generally 2 pins, and you get free shipping within the United States. So do that. Visit Fansets. You'll be very glad that you did. And with that, friends, I'm going to thank you for joining us. As always, I remind you that sharing is caring, caring is sharing. I just had a short circuit in my brain. And keep on trekking.
Peace and long life.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.